Good evening, church. The end matters most when trials are worth it. That's the title and the sermon statement for tonight. We are in Genesis chapter 29 and verse 14 to 30, a story that we know very well. It's been a few weeks that we have been talking about and wrestling with the idea of trials. Well, it's been a few months. And so far we have spoken about, mostly about the trials that God places upon us, or that other people places upon us, or that we put upon ourselves accidentally, not on purpose. None of these trials are planned. They just happen to us. But today I would like to talk about the other types of trials that we also go through, the types of trials that we actually do choose, and we know it's going to be a trial. But sometimes maybe we underestimate that. We underestimate the intensity of that trial. But the decision to step into that trial was ours. And usually it's because there's something bigger that we're looking at. There's a goal that we have. Let me give a few examples. Like, for example, becoming a disciple of Jesus. Becoming a disciple of Jesus is a wonderful thing. We want to go to heaven. We want to have this relationship with God legitimized. We want to be in a covenantal relationship with God. And so we become a disciple of Jesus. And people tell us beforehand, look, it's going to be tough. And we're like, okay. You see, when you sign up to be a disciple, you are signing up for a trial. There's loads of scriptures to back that up. Because you inform Satan that you are now his enemy. Some people think when they become Christians, okay, so now life's going to start going smooth. Now life's going to start getting easy. It's not so. When Paul met Christ, Jesus said of him, I will show him how much he must suffer for my name. So Paul was a Jew, he was a Pharisee, and his life was quite smooth. He started to follow Jesus, and then the trials started coming. You can go read about that in Acts chapter 9 and verse 16. And I think that Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the guy who was hung by Hitler, I think it was in 1945. I mean, he was quite a serious spiritual guy and preacher of the day. I mean, I think he had it right when he said, when Christ calls you, he calls you to come and die. And so when you start to follow Christ, you must know that you're signing up to die. That's what Jesus came to do, right? It was to come and die. Paul told Timothy, we've heard this before many times. Paul told Timothy that everybody who wants to live a godly life will be persecuted. 2 Timothy 3 and verse 12. Just some brief examples that when you become a Christian, you willingly sign up for a trial. All right? It seems like Jesus' life was just amazing before he got baptized. The moment he got baptized, boom, he was taken into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. So, signing up to be a Christian, you are signing up voluntarily to enter a trial. What about bearing children? Right? Myself and Afrida, I mean, we were so excited. We wanted kids. I mean, every time we meet people with kids, we're like, oh, they're so cute. Those little feet, those little fingers. It's wonderful. We also want to have kids. And so we try to have kids. And it's wonderful until she gets pregnant. Alfreda was nauseous and sick for 9 months, ladies and gentlemen. And then she starts getting the cramps, craves certain food, and then we realize, oh my goodness, getting kids and having a baby, it's a trial, right? Being pregnant is a trial. The birth process is a trial. It's apparently quite painful, the ladies tell me. Doing nappies, from my side, it's definitely a trial. Being woken up by the kid 3-4 times a night, that's a trial. Okay, baby messing food everywhere is a trial, especially for me. I like stuff to be neat. I don't like noodle fingers to touch me, but it's a mess when you've got a kid. Okay, toddlers then start breaking your stuff. I mean, Micah the other day broke our TV. Just let it fall over on its face and the screen cracked. At one point, Alfreda was busy making food in the oven, and then the oven took light. And everybody's running out of the house. We don't know what's causing the fire. Eventually, we go and look. Micah had placed the TV remote in the oven, and it took light. So having kids is going to be easy, right? They're going to be so cute. It's going to be wonderful, right? Wrong. Raising kids is a trial, ladies and gentlemen. We say things like, well, I want to get married. Oh, I love you so much, my babe. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I can't wait to for the moment that I see you every day, that I wake up next to you every morning, eat with you breakfast and have lunch with you and supper, my love, and then you get married. And then you realize, oh my goodness, I've got differences of opinion with this woman. And quarrels arise, annoyances, the way they do things. We like different food. Your wife takes your car, drives it into a pole, your brand new car. Husbands mess in the kitchen, are inconsiderate of their wives. And then you start to understand what people mean when they say it's a love-hate relationship. Marriage itself can be a trial, brothers and sisters. I'm sure you know that. Maybe it's starting a new business, right? You have this wonderful entrepreneurial idea, this business that you're going to launch, and you're going to make loads of bucks, and you can see this whole business fit together at night when you go to sleep. Everything just falls into place. You are already counting the money that you would be making, and then you launch this business, and then you realize, oh my goodness, clients are actually difficult. Then you realize, oh my goodness, if this business is going to work tomorrow, I need to go sleep early tonight. But you realize you can't. So you got to work late, be up early, hard work, hard emotional, physical, mental labor to start your own business, to run your own business. And then you realize that money doesn't come that easy. Alfreda had a doggy parlor at one stage. Oh my goodness. It was a trial of note. Believe you me, nothing easy happens in a doggy parlor. And when you work with people's mutts, it gets quite intense. So starting a new business adventure is a trial. Running a business is a trial. What about things like registering to study? Registering for your degree. You are so excited, you've just finished school. You're so excited that you're going to go to university. You can imagine what that degree will mean for you, and how you would spend your salary that you're going to get after you've hit this big job with that degree of yours. And so you register at university. You go to your classes, you meet new people, and you learn new things. It's absolutely wonderful. The first week is great. The second week, maybe the third week, super exciting, until your assignments mount up, until you have to go write exams. And you don't have the right amount of time to study properly, when you've got to wake up 4 or 3 a.m. in the morning to study with your coffee in the cold. Then you realize, oh my goodness, studying is a trial. So, trying to activate your brain when you're tired is one of the hardest things to do. Studying is really a trial of note. Now, these are just examples of trials that we willingly sign up for. And sometimes we sign up for the trials and then we end up slacking as time progresses when we realize how hard it is. It's one thing to feel burdened by trials that unexpectedly come our way. It is another thing to feel burdened by the trials that we have willingly signed up for and chosen ourselves. Now tonight we'll be looking at a story like that. And I would like you to read the story with me. I really enjoy this story because it's a story of love. It's in Genesis 29. And we're going to read from verse 14b. It goes as follows. After Jacob had stayed with him for a whole month, Laban said to him, just because you are a relative of mine, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be. Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel was lovely in form and beautiful. Jacob was in love with Rachel and said, I'll work for you 7 years in return for your younger daughter Rachel. Laban said, it's better that I give her to you than to some other man. Stay here with me. So Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, give me my wife. My time is completed and I want to lie with her. So Laban brought together all the people of the place and gave a feast. But when evening came, he took his daughter Leah and gave her to Jacob, and Jacob lay with her. And Laban gave his servant girl Zilpah to his daughter as her maidservant. When morning came, there was Leah. So Jacob said to Laban, what is this you have done to me? I served you for Rachel, didn't I? Why have you deceived me? Laban replied, it is not our custom here to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older one. Finish this daughter's bridal week, then we will give you the younger one also in return for another 7 years of work. And Jacob did so. He finished the week with Leah, and then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be his wife. Laban gave his servant girl Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her maidservant. Jacob lay with Rachel also, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he worked for Laban another 7 years. Now, Jacob signs up for his trial over here. Isaac placed a huge burden on the shoulders of his son Jacob. He was to marry a woman who was not a Canaanite. And so Isaac was really interested. Isaac and his wife, Rebekah, they were really interested in getting Jacob to not marry somebody from Canaan like their brother, Jacob's brother Esau had done. And so he sent him to Rebekah's family. And it wasn't a short journey, it was quite a long distance. And on the way there to Padam Aram, God appeared to Jacob in a dream and basically gave him the same blessings and promises that he gave to his father Isaac and Abraham. And now Jacob eventually arrived in the correct area by a well when he saw Rachel for the first time. And the text tells us that he gave Rachel's sheep water and then he kissed her. I assume it wasn't a romantic kiss, but a cultural greeting. I think Jacob was extremely happy when he saw her and he realized who she was, and he knew that this is a possibility that this lady would become his wife. Now there are 3 things in this text, 3 things in the story that I'd like to apply to our lives as we willingly choose to take on trials. Here's the first one. A key question of life every person must answer is this: what is worth suffering for? What is worth suffering for? All life pursuits in this world that is worth something cost something. I'll repeat that. All life pursuits in this world that is worth something costs something. If it is worth it, then the struggle to get it must be worth it. Jacob decided to go through the long journey to Padam Aram because it would please his father, and it would also please God if he didn't take away from the Canaanites. So the trial of the journey was worth it, and that is why he went. When Laban asked Jacob to work for him, it was a no-brainer for Jacob to say what he wanted. He wanted Rachel. And we see by the end of the story that Jacob was willing to work for her for 14 years. He made up his mind she was worth it. The 2 most valuable resources we spend time and the 2 most valuable resources we spend is time and energy. We have limited time and we have limited energy. Therefore, we have to choose very wisely how we spend it and on what we spend it. In Jacob's mind, Rachel was worth it. That is why he didn't hesitate at all to offer 7 years of his time and energy in exchange for her. And when Laban later required another 7 years, he didn't cease his pursuit. He continued. You see, trials tend to eat more of our energy and time. But that is okay if it is worth it. So think about the studies you have chosen. Think about the business you want to start, the directions you have chosen, the pursuits that you are contemplating. Think carefully about that and ask yourself the question, is it worth your time and energy? Is it really worth it? To help us think more through this, let's consider the following 2 statements. Firstly, what money can buy isn't worth it. Most people on the planet that believe that any trial is worth it for money. A trial of health, a trial of instability, mental instability, a trial of stress is worth it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not worth it. Do you know how many people in this world are sacrificing their time and their energy for money that gets blown like this, that is flown away with like leaves in the wind? Why not? Why is it not worth it? Because money cannot buy the most valuable things in this world. Money takes more from you than what it gives. Ecclesiastes 5 verse 12 says, the sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of a rich man permits him no sleep. 1 Timothy 6, 9-10, people who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge men into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and have pierced themselves with many griefs. Sometimes the pursuit after money is just too intense and it brings up too many forms of grief. People go through the most severe trials for money. I say it isn't worth it. We need money, but it's not worth sacrificing our health, our futures, and our time for. There are things more valuable. Yes, we've got to work. Yes, we've got to bring our parts so that we can eat. That's true. But there's a difference between working to live and living to work. Secondly, what money can't buy is worth it. Jacob wanted Rachel. Jacob needed Rachel. He didn't take a wife from anywhere else. His dad asked him to get a wife from Laban's family. Money couldn't buy that for him. Similarly, money cannot buy our spiritual growth. It cannot transform us into the image of the Son of God. It cannot produce us children. It cannot produce love and relationships. And so the most valuable things in life are those things that money can't buy. And those are the things we should be willing to sacrifice our time and our energy for. There's a second point I'd like to share with us tonight. Nothing eases a trial more than the vision of the end. Nothing eases a trial more than the vision of the end. It is not about the light at the end of the tunnel. You've heard people say that. There's light at the end of the tunnel. It's not about the light at the end of the tunnel, but about the prize at the end of the tunnel. The light at the end of the tunnel suggests a negative connotation. It's got a negative idea attached to it, that we are in darkness now. If you look at your trial as darkness, it's going to be harder to make it through to the end. It's a negative way of looking at it. At the end of this trial, at the end of this difficult moment, there's a prize. And that prize is the thing that we should be looking at. Darkness disappears when you envision the prize. I just love the way that Moses wrote down this piece of scripture. And let me read verse 20 to you again, and you'll get what I'm saying. So Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel. Listen to this. But they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Right. Jacob survived 7 years of work because he was thinking about this lady, this Rachel. When the sun came up and he had to go back into the field to work, even though he was still weak from yesterday, he just thought about Rachel. And he got up with a smile when he had to spend hours in the sun carrying farming equipment around and he wanted to faint. He just looked at Rachel and he got new strength. Focusing on the trial might cost you the prize. Focusing on the difficult stuff that happens around you might just cost you the prize. You might just give up. Imagine for a moment that Jacob became overly focused on all the hard work and sweat that he was enduring. If he kept on looking at the trial negatively, he would probably have given up. Looking at the discomfort doesn't inspire us to keep going. If you keep on looking at a pain, you keep on looking at the darkness around you, it's not going to inspire you to keep on going. It's looking at the prize that keeps us going. It inspires us. So you don't focus on the exam, you focus on the feeling of passing in the exam. You don't focus on the blood and the sweat. You focus on the business being a success. I did the Ironman 2013, Ironman South Africa 2013 with a friend. He got me into it, and it took us 1 year to train for it. It took me 13 and a half hours to complete it. I don't know if you guys know what the Ironman is, but it's a 3.8 kilometer swim in the ocean. I don't know, that's 2 miles or something. And then it's a 180 kilometer cycle. That's probably about 110 miles, and then it's followed by a marathon, which is a 42 kilometer run. So it's all of this in one. It took me 13 and a half hours to finish that. And as I trained, I trained myself silly. I had to change my diet. It was quite intense, and I had to learn very quickly. If I think about the pain as I'm cycling, or the pain in my shoulders and my neck as I am swimming during the training, if I think about the pain, I'm not going to get to the point where I'm going to do the race, because I've got to do this for a year. So I kept on focusing on the race and finishing the race that was lying ahead of me. That specific date of Ironman South Africa 2013 played over in my mind. I was looking forward towards the prize, towards that medal that I was going to hang in my room, which I haven't done yet, and it's been like 7 years already. But that was the goal. The goal was the medal. The goal was this famous guy who stands at the end of the race and he calls your name and says, Michiel Greiling, you are an Iron Man. I was looking forward to that moment when I finished the race. And that's the only thing that kept me going through. And this is a biblical example, ladies and gentlemen. Not to look at our trials and the suffering, but to look at what lies ahead of us. Isn't that what Hebrews 12:2 says? Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. And this next verse I just love. Consider him, that's Jesus on the cross, who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. You see, Jesus, and what kept him going was the joy that was set before him. And that was the other side of the cross. The prize at the end of the tunnel. You cannot lose heart if the desires of your heart are waiting for you at the end of the trial. You can't lose heart. There's a third point I'd just like to point out from the story. Do not complain about your trial if you know why you're in it. Sometimes we just have to go back again. Why did I sign up for this trial in the first place? Go back to that point. Don't complain. I must say that the story of Jacob and Leah is very interesting. It's one of the strangest stories in the Bible. The dad promised Rachel, but then he gives him Leah. How did Jacob miss that? Was he drunk? How come he didn't realize until the next morning that it wasn't Rachel? Anyways, sometimes the trial we sign up for turns out harder than we anticipated. But we've got to keep going anyways. That is exactly what Jacob does. You see, Jacob was worth another 7 years. It's almost like this. We should almost not we shouldn't pursue goals and dreams unless we are willing to work twice as hard for them as anticipated. What that does is it inflates our dreams. It makes sure that we choose correctly what it is that we pursue. Whatever you are going through right now, don't forget why you are in it. God is working on you. He is shaping you. He's making you like His Son. He's preparing you for the future. He's using you to display His love to others. You are in it because God wants you in it. So don't complain about it. Trust God. I'm reminded of this beautiful text that Peter wrote for us. Though you have not seen Him, you love Him. And even though you do not see Him now, you believe in Him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy, for you are receiving the goal of your faith, the salvation of your souls. 1 Peter 1 verse 8 to 9. And I'd like to use this specifically in relation to our spiritual lives. Sometimes we might question our spiritual lives, whether it's worth it, ladies and gentlemen. We might not see God now. We might not be in close proximity to Him physically. Do not lose heart. We are achieving the salvation of our souls, the goal of our faith. God is busy shaping us and bringing us closer to Him. This text kept on ringing in my head as I prepared this lesson. We don't see God, but we believe in Him. We don't see Him, but we love Him. Sometimes we feel alone. Sometimes the trial seems so hard. Sometimes God seems so distant. But what matters is that we are busy receiving the salvation of our souls. And for that we should be smiling regardless of what it is that we are going through. It is very difficult for me to do these lessons online. It's because I don't know everybody well enough in the church Sweet Home to accurately place these lessons. And I don't know, I'm not there. I don't know what is going on in everybody's lives. One of the things that I've learned about preaching is that the better you're in touch with the people you're talking to, the better you'll be able to share lessons. And it's difficult to be in a different country, to be distant from the culture and the environmental issues that you guys are going through over there. So I don't always know how to pitch these lessons in a relevant way, but I try. So I don't know today what all of the trials are that you are going through. I know Birdie is fearful of his health. I do know that. I know that Chuck was sick and that his brother recently passed away. I know some of you are looking for jobs like old Micah, the punk. I know some of you are looking for maybe a new home or for your family. I know some of you are wrestling with some things. I know old Wes fell a hole into one of the Sweet Home streets last week, Sunday or 2 weeks ago. I want to challenge you guys to focus on what you will be when it is over. Focus on who you will be when it is over, not on the darkness that you find yourself in. From South Africa and my family, we say that we love you all dearly. And if anybody's going through a trial, I want to challenge you today to hang in there, to keep on looking at the prize at the end. Never forget old Jacob. And how he just kept on holding on to this lady of his dreams, this Rachel. Just hold on. It's valuable, it's worth it. If God is in the picture, whatever you're going through is worth it. Love you guys. Have a super week.